Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm gonna talk about the latest episode of Beauty and the Beast. So a lot of stuff went down in this episode. A lot of stuff was revealed. I'll just kind of break down every little thing. It's very interesting. Let's start with what happened with Vincent. Basically, he was being tortured to basically get information because it's like, oh yeah, you've been framed and everyone thinks you're a terrorist, and it's like, oh, you've killed all these people, even though it was the Beast that killed all those people. But it's like, no, all this evidence is being pointed towards you as the killer, the one behind this, and that you're about to perform some terrorist act. That basically they. Because everyone already has their opinion of Vincent, like DHS and whatnot, because it's like, okay, they killed Hell. Yes, whether that was self-defense or not, that's its own thing. But nonetheless, what it really comes down to is like, okay, with all his action, it's like he's a disturbed veteran. He has PTSD. He's just kind of off his rocker. He's so broken from his experiences over there, especially because all the evidence, well, combined with what they already know about, the super soldier program, but, also all that evidence that's left behind kind of explaining everything a little bit more. It's like, because when they had Vincent locked up, they knew about the whole super soldier program. Granted, they didn't know to what extent, like the whole beast. Because everyone has their ideas of like, okay, this is what super soldier program, obviously you're super strong and stuff like that, but they don't really know the side effects, like the beast aspect to it. But basically, they were kind of torturing him. It was obviously physical torture, but it was also mental torture too. I mean, they were smacking him around and everything, but it was also like, okay, so basically this is all for revenge for you. At the beginning, the whole reason why you joined the military, you were a doctor, you had a good job, a good life, but you joined the military because you wanted revenge for what happened to your brothers, that died in the towers. And then it was like, okay, you got screwed over by your country as well as the military because they tried to kill you after the whole, they tried to wipe out the whole, super soldier program. So it's like, of course you want revenge there. So when you came back home, you might have been hiding out and whatnot, but how many people did you kill there just to make sure that you kept, the military from making more monsters like you? I mean, he's like basically counting the fact is like, I know you've killed everyone associated with Muirfield, and it's like now you killed all these other people like Braxton and all these other people associated who are trying to basically revive Muirfield and continue the experiment. So it's like, it's like now, you're still motivated by your revenge and you're trying to take it out on the country that made you the monster you are. That's what this all is. You're still fighting. And, Vincent's trying to fight back and be like, no, I'm not a monster. It kind of brings up an interesting perspective that him and Kat kind of bring up in this episode. I mean, because Kat kind of gets it a little bit, not to that extent, but it's like her DHS boss basically like, yo, your husband's a terrorist, and she's trying to explain, no, she's not. It's like, you're going to spend the rest of your life in jail. You should, you should be ashamed of yourself. You were a good person at one point in time, but now you're kind of following the same path as your husband. It's like, you should do the right thing. I mean, lucky for her, JT and Heather got some money together and got her a lawyer and got her out, so that was good. I'm glad that kind of happened very quickly, because I thought she was actually going to spend more time in jail, because I already knew she was kind of locked up because I saw the preview from the previous episode, when it was going preview for this episode. I know, I kind of, never mind. So I already knew she was in jail, but I was surprised how little time she actually spent in jail. I mean, granted, she's lucky she spent such little time in jail, because if people found out, it's like, oh, you're a cop in here with us, cops don't get the best treatment when they're in jail. But nonetheless, like I said, she wasn't in there too long, so that's good. But, for them, they realize a lot of things. It's like things are never going to end because essentially they're both trying to fill a void inside of their hearts. They're going out of there. Yes, they've been doing good, And in their minds, they're like, basically, whoever is setting them up is basically taking everything, all the good they've ever done, and kind of turning it against them. It's like, almost make it seem like, well, what's the point of everything we've done over the years? It's like, yeah, it might have been good, but it's like, it will amount to nothing in the end, because it's like, oh, Vincent will be seen as a terrorist, and I will be seen as the wife that abetted a terrorist, and that it would kind of undo all the good that they've done. But, Tess tried to be like, no, all the people you've saved, they would disagree that, that it was that what they did was unnecessary, that there was kind of no point. I'm not saying that's exactly what they're saying, but to me, that's what it kind of seemed like they might be kind of alluding to. But the point that I was trying to get to is the fact is that they are trying to fill different voids. Kat has always been trying to make up for, like, originally it was about solving her mom's death, and that ended when she ended up helping Vincent take down Muirfield. But they kept going after more and more stuff in her case, trying to get more justice and more justice, like pushing the boundaries of being a good guy, trying to do more good in some way to kind of fill the hole in her heart, to make up for the fact that her mom's not around anymore. Like to her, like the way she puts it, it's like no matter how much good I'm doing, it's not like it's going to bring mom back. She's gone forever, and that's just how it is. And kind of Vincent doing the same thing for his brothers. Like he said, he didn't want. It's something he had never really thought about, or never at least admitted, was the fact is he did join the military because he wanted revenge for his brothers, and that's just kind of always stuck by. It's like it's what stuck with them, that they've been fighting so hard because of that. And it's like maybe there's a time, maybe now's the time that we have to stop fighting, because we keep digging ourselves deeper and deeper into this. Yes, we don't want to, we try not to let bad stuff happen. We want to be the good guys, and we want to help people, but it's like eventually you don't have to fight every battle out. You don't have to fight all the injustices, like because not every battle out there is yours to take up for. It's kind of like it's a little backwards, because it's like, but you guys are good guys, so it's okay. Like you kind of see it though. It's like you never really see that side of it. It's like heroism. It's always like, yeah, you always do fight for truth and justice, obviously, but it's like you never think about the fact of the matter is of like, maybe your heroism does cause more harm than good, because because of everything they've done, it's led them down to the road that they're in right now, with a lot of people's lives being endangered, not just theirs, just things being as it is. There's a lot of people that have died. It's just kind of like, it kind of brings up an interesting question to me, like in my mind. It's just like, sometimes is there a limit to how far you should go when it comes to heroism? It's always says like you should always pick your battles, and is that the case? Like if you see evil doing, should there actually be a point in your mind you go like, maybe I shouldn't do this, because there will be, should you even think about it? Should you always just leap forward, or should you actually think heavily like, oh, but what about the consequences? Even if you do the right thing, there will always be consequences, and life's a constant like domino effect. Like one domino falls down, sets off the next domino, which sets off a long series of events, which has led them from the very beginning to now. Which I like the fact it's reflecting a little bit more. It's kind of like, this is kind of like, because it is the end, it's like reflecting upon the beginning. So it's like seeing when they first met and everything. And I don't know, it's all kind of interesting. Like I know I'm just rambling on, but to me it just kind of brings up an interesting perspective to look at things. It kind of got brought up last episode, but you see it more apparently in this episode. Like the fact is, Tess is helping them out. She's kind of doing some illegal stuff. It's like, I brought it up last time. It's like Tess is all about law and order and everything, but she realizes what's happening to Vincent and Kat isn't right. Yes, they haven't always gone about things the most legal way, but they try to be lawful. But the fact of the matter is, the system's basically screwing them over. So it's like, in her mind, it's like, yes, I am an officer, and I'm doing, like, I fight for the law and order, but I also fight for truth. And it's not fair for them to have to suffer for something that's complete, BS, because basically this is all, they've done a lot of good, and they're being framed as being bad people. So, she's doing her best to help them out. It's not just, granted, it's not even just about that. It's also about, because she wants to help out her best friend. She, at the end of the day, she's like, Vincent and Kat deserve happiness after everything they've been through, after everything they've sacrificed. So that was kind of interesting. I also love the constant her and JT throughout this episode. Like, first time, like, she's like, would you take it the wrong way if I told you I love you? And he was like, yeah. And then the whole being a little flirty, talking about, when Tess was like, oh yeah, maybe we can, when it's all said and done with Vincent and Kat, maybe we can all get our happy endings, and they're smiling back and forth. Then the whole scene in the bar, it's so cute. It's like, yes, hurry up, shut your mouth and get back together. Granted, they got to deal with the problem at hand first, but then, it was, we all knew that they were all going to like drift back towards each other. It's just like, they've kind of found their way back to each other, because it kind of brought up the question of like, yo, what are you going to do like when it's all said and done? Like if things work out and Vincent and Kat leave, like what will you do? And, that's when she's brought up the fact is that she'll try and find her happy endings. Because that is the question, like, what will JT do? Because for the whole reason why him and Tess broke up is because he wanted to find out that something he can do. And it's like, now that Vincent's gone and Vincent and Kat might be gone, it's like that part of his life will be over. So what does he plan on doing next? What does Tess can plan to do next? It just kind of brings up that question, like, what is everyone going to do? Because I'm also thinking about Heather, too, because it's like Heather's still super pissed at Kyle because she's like, Kyle screwed me over. Like, not screwed me over. He screwed over my sister and her husband. And, even like Kat's explaining it to her, like, you don't have to be mad at him. He legitimately thought he was doing the right thing. And that's a good thing. Like, you as an audience, we got like, oh, he sucks. But at the same time, it's like, well, considering all the lies that were fed to him, and then he finds out that this whole situation, I mean, he all this was based on what he learned from DHS, so you can't blame him. He's like, oh, this is our government saying he's a bad guy, so of course he's going to be like, oh yeah, he's obviously a bad guy. I'm going to try and get Heather as far away from him. So he's like, but because at the end of the day, Kyle was just trying to protect her, so. Which makes me feel bad that this entire time I've been doubting him. I've had yet let it go. I was like, I mean, granted, he screwed him over last episode, but still, like, that was out of him trying to be a good guy, so, but it's like, I don't know, because to me, I was like, they were setting him up to be some main antagonist or something, but it's like, no, he was just a good guy, because if you literally go back, I've been doubting him ever since he first appeared. I was like, I don't trust this dude, but at the end of the day, he is a very good guy, because even Kat's like, you know what, when it's all said and done, I need you to forgive Kyle. Like, we don't blame him, and neither should you. He did it because he loves you and he cares about you. He just wants to protect you. He wants what's best for you, and that's what we want too, And so it was very sweet. I mean, granted, this is, after Braxton shot her, because we find out, it's like, oh yeah, everything has been a freaking lie. And to me, that's such a great reveal, because I was wondering, like, who could be behind it? Who is the beast? For someone, it's because it kept bringing out the fact is, it had to be, like, especially when Vincent was inside the cage, he was not cage, locked up, and he saw Kat, and the cat inside of his head helping him figure it out, and it's kind of like, I was like, who knows you best? I was like, yeah, the Beast or whoever would have to be someone you know. I mean, for them to frame you up the way they did, they had to know a lot of stuff. And he kept looking at Braxton's name and stuff. I was like, what did he figure out? He went to Braxton's body. I was like, what did you figure out? And then it's like, oh yeah, Braxton's still alive. I was like, wait, does that mean Braxton's a Beast? No, because there is no Beast. They never actually made another one. This whole thing, since the very beginning of the season, the whole bounty against Vincent, like out for Vincent, has been a ploy by Braxton because he knew DHS was closing in on him and he needed an escape plan. So this whole thing was about clearing the board, getting rid of everyone that was helping him create the little revival of Muirfield, taking them out because that way they can't be used against him, and he's just using Vincent as a scapegoat too. That's why he even brought up the whole like, oh no, there's a beast behind this as well, and to kind of drag them in deeper and closer so that they're kind of chasing their own tails, making them look left while you're going right, faking his own death and everything. The bastard even shot Heather. That's what kind of started this up, because that was flashing in the back of my head. I was like, luckily she's okay, but still that sucks. I was instantly thinking, like, the moment she was in the hospital, I was like, oh, Kyle's going to come and visit her. I mean, maybe that's going to play out next episode, but I was so sure. I was like, oh, he's going to pop up at the end of the episode or something. But it's like, no, it didn't happen, but I'm pretty sure it's going to happen next episode. But it's like, that bastard Braxton, it's just like, dude, like, to me, I like it though. I mean, part of me was like expecting some huge big showdown with a beast, and that was going to be how it ended. Cause I was like, oh yeah, obviously it's the beast that set them up. And then it was like, okay, so maybe it wasn't the beast, maybe it was someone else. So like, no, because there's no beast at all. It's just this dude covering his ass essentially. So I really like that turn of events of being like, yeah, this whole thing, the entire events of this season has been a huge setup. It's been a huge like exit strategy for him. And that's kind of interesting that he's thought that far ahead. Like, this has been in the makings for a long time. I think from what they were saying, like, they make it seem like, well, that he had this place, like, I don't know how much time has actually passed since the beginning of the season, since, like, their honeymoon thing at the beginning of I know between season 1 and season 2, like, at the beginning, I mean, God, between last season and this season at the beginning, it had been, like, 2 months, wasn't it? So from my understanding, it's been a month, maybe. Like that's how I was interpreting it, how much time has passed so far across this entire season. But that's just like that's astounding. Like did he like all this is played out and it's just all been one large calculated move, and it's just astonishing. But that's the question, like how will this all end? How will this play out? Will Vincent be able to really, I mean, because at this point in time, because I was about to say, it doesn't even matter if they're able to prove his innocence, because DHS has already said it, like they're not going easy on him about the whole Hell thing. He killed Hell, and like the top people are like, no, like he's got to pay for it. So there's no easy way about this. Like, because part of me is like, obviously, I don't want them to run. No one wants them to run, but there's no choice. JT, Tess, or Heather, no one wants them to run, but they're going to have little choice. Like the whole point is to stop Braxton now. It's not about clearing their names. Well, I mean, it's partly that, but it's also because they have to stop him from doing whatever he's doing, because he's going to do he's going to hurt a lot of people. Obviously, he's going to kill the last person that's connected to the whole revival of Muirfield group he was a part of, because we found out the identity of the next person that was associated with the group. Take him out, but who's to say he won't kill a lot of people in the process of taking this person out? But he's going to make it look like the terrorist act and then pin it all on Vincent. So, and even if they, like I said, catch Braxton, it still doesn't erase what Vincent's done, even though it was out of self-defense. So from the very beginning, I was saying, like, well, not from the beginning, but I was saying, like, it could only end one way. Either Vincent miraculously gets cured, which I don't think that's ever going to happen, him being cured, like I think, because that hasn't even been brought up, but even at that point it's kind of like, well, it doesn't matter. Even if he gets cured, he's still a wanted man. So basically him and Kat are gonna have to disappear. Like I said, I don't want them to. I want them to stay there. That's their home. That's where their best friends are. That's where their family is. I mean, not even just best friends. That is legitimately the family, not just Heather, Tess, and JT. That's the only family that they really have. Like, because we've met like some of Kat's family outside of Heather. Like I went in some other like aunts and stuff. Was it last season? Yeah, during the whole engagement thing. Like I think it was like her other aunts came around and stuff like that. I think at one point you met other people in Vincent's family last season, didn't you? Like some cousins and stuff like that. So that's kind of the only family that they really have now, and I don't want them to have to leave that behind, but they will have little to no choice. And so I don't know, another outcome I was saying is like maybe they fake their deaths, and it's like, okay, if they're believed to be dead, no one's going to be looking for them. So I don't know, because there's a lot of things to be considered too. I mean, it's kind of been jokingly brought up. The fact is, because he is a beast, Vincent will age slower than Kat, so you'll kind of have to watch her grow old, and that'll be its own thing. But that'll be something that's like, yeah, something dealt with in the aftermath, like that we won't get to see, obviously. Like it's going to be something that's like, yeah, it's going to have its own ending, and then it's just going to be like, okay, the rest of their lives is kind of up to your imagination, because it does make you wonder, like, will we see a situation where it's like, okay, we're free now, so we got to stop being the do-gooders that we are, or will we see them from time to time be like, well, might as well, we still can't stop being the heroes that we are. Essentially, there's so many ways this could go about. I mean, granted, truth be told, it can only go one way, but how you get to that destination, there's multiple ways to get towards it. Like I said, faking your death, just simply running away. That's just their only option. And Heather even said it in this episode. She was like, at least come and say goodbye to me before you go. And it's like, the fact that she said that makes me think they're not actually going to have a chance, are they? They're just going to have to run, aren't they? And because that was also brought up in this episode, is like why they didn't get on the plane. For one, because they were saying like it felt weird, it felt wrong, because obviously the beast was still one option, but it was also because it was like, the fact of the matter is, even if they ran, this would be never ending. It's like now they finally see that it's like, oh, like we're kind of the reason why things are never ending, because we're always stepping in deeper and deeper, because we're trying to fill like basically a hole in our hearts, kind of make up for something, like make up for, like, in Kat's case, like it's also about making up for what her mom did, like paying for her mom's crimes, like what she did. I mean, even Kat herself saying like, I forgave her, like even her mom didn't expect the whole Muirfield project to end up escalating to the point it has, and got everything being up to what it is now, and so I don't know. Next week is the series finale, and I'm just anticipating, just waiting to find out like how this is all going to end. Like, hopefully, I doubt it. I mean, you never know. They could. I doubt they'll do this, but it could legitimately be like, oh yeah, they didn't fake their deaths. They legitimately die. It's like, oh yeah, they die beside each other because they both get injured or whatever. You never know. It could be that way. I highly doubt it, but it's still a possibility. But I'm very eager to find out how they decide to wrap this series up. Kind of wrap up everybody's story, so. Because it's also like, because the whole beast thing too, like I said, like, because he's still a beast, like, there will always be someone trying to restart the Mirfield project, so that's why I always said, like, it has to end with them thinking, like, faking their death. As long as people strongly believe that Vincent's dead, then maybe that project will stay dead. It's like, how do you get rid of all that research? Because without someone that was digging it up, I don't know. There's just so much to it. But you know what? I'm just gonna leave it at that. But till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.